All right, welcome back to the Artist Connection podcast. This is Matt Kasar, here with a very special guest, a very special friend of mine, Mr. George Hrab.
Hello. Special.
Welcome,
Ooh, I get into the special column. I love it. I love it. Nice to be back.
The first time you were here was episode 6, which was July of 2011.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that time I introduced you as the lovely and talented George Hrab, which a description that still holds up.
Oh, okay, good. A little less lovely, maybe.
It's a little worse for the wearer.
That lovely and talented balance equation. It's like, which do you want more of? I'm not sure. I'm not sure where I'm at now, yeah.
We just listened to your cover of Psycho Killer. And before we started recording, I told you that was the first song that I heard of yours.
Right.
When a couple friends of mine at work turned me on to you.
And you searched for more after that.
I did. I mean, that was the catalyst. And then just from there, I've literally been a fan ever since.
Well, that's very nice.
Yeah.
Well, that tune's interesting. I mean, obviously, not obviously, but I'm a gigantic Talking Heads fan. I mean, Talking Heads was my first band. That was the real first band that I jumped into.
And what about them grabbed you?
Well, the thing was, my dad, I've told the story before, but my dad took me to see Stop Making Sense in a theater. I was in 8th grade, and I had seen the video for Burning Down the House,
right,
and maybe the video for Once in a Lifetime. And it was weird. It was just weird. I didn't get it. I didn't understand what was going on. It was these weird video images. It was this lanky, tall, nerdy guy. There was something appealing about it because I liked the rhythms of it. I liked the melody of it, but it was weird. I liked Hall & Oates. I liked, early MTV stuff. So some of the Police, Cyndi Lauper,
right,
Duran Duran, that kind of stuff I was into and digging. And here was this arty, more along the Devo side of things and kind of this arty weirdness. And I didn't quite get it. But my dad saw, I guess, an ad or something listed that this movie, Stop Making Sense, which is a concert film, was being shown in a theater. And he was like, we should go see this. I think you would, these guys, they're the Burning Down the House guys. I'm like, okay, cool. So we went, and if you're not familiar with Stop Making Sense, I mean, I think it's the best concert film.
I agree.
I think still to this day.
Yeah, I agree.
Jonathan Demme directed it. It's before he did Silence of the Lambs. It's before he did all the stuff they ended up doing. One of his early films. And it's shot in a way that is just so... It puts you in the audience in the best way possible. It gives you the ultimate seat for this show. So there's not a lot of close-ups. There's not a lot of focusing on performers' hands. There's not a lot of fast cuts. It's a lot of slow takes, and you're just there and you're absorbing it, and you're allowing the performance to be special and not the editing of the performance to be special, which is something that to this day bugs the crap out of me when I watch concert videos.
Oh, it's gotten so bad now.
It's so bad.
It's just short attention span. Just you're focusing for 1 second, and then the next thing you know, you're on the drums. Now you're back to the guitar.
Right, and a lot of close-ups on faces and hands, and I'm not interested in that. I want the vitality of the performer
absolutely
to come across. If they're vital, if they're interesting, it'll come across. If they're a boring performer, then that's going to come across as well, and that's on them.
Right.
But I want that option as an observer to be able to say, oh, this is boring, or this is mesmerizing. So there I am in 8th grade, with my limited musical vocabulary and limited appreciation of visual arts, musical arts. And I'm just blown away. I mean, I'm speechless because this is such a well thought out, even to a kid, this is such a well thought out performance. And I realize there is so much more to this. There is so much more to this music thing than I can really even comprehend. And that was the catalyst. And it was just like a spark in a mine full of gas, just boom. So I had to get everything I possibly could, on my limited 8th grader's budget, try to find. My cousin dubbed me a copy of Songs About Buildings and Food and Talking Heads 77, the first 2 albums. I absorbed those. It was my food, and got into them, and there was just something about them that I just loved and got. They were accessible, they were funky, they were weird, they were danceable too. I love that you could dance to their stuff. That it was on its surface, they were a dance band.
Right.
They were like a funk R&B dance band, but there's a deep artistic thing happening there, like a weird art school thing happening.
Yeah,
because they all went to art school.
Yeah.
That's how they met. subsequently, I realized that they were really this kind of breaking off point, because Adrian Belew performed with them, who ended up being in King Crimson, that I ended up falling in love with, who then led me to Robert Fripp, which then leads me to that whole Fripp approach to music and the kind of music as a monk, the guitar as an instrument of discovery, as opposed to an instrument of sexuality.
True.
Which leads to Frank Zappa. Adrian Belew leaves Talking Heads to go play with David Bowie, and he leaves. He starts with Frank Zappa, goes to Bowie, goes to Talking Heads. So I work my way backwards to Bowie, and then I find Zappa eventually. And Zappa, much like that kid sitting in the theater seeing Stop Making Sense, it just reignites my passion. I get to college, and I become a Zappa freak. So I discover Zappa and do all that. So in that particular song of Psycho Killer, that's me trying to do what early Yes used to do with their weird covers. So, I also become a Yes fanatic. So that's like the Trinity. Zappa, Heads, Yes. Yes would take popular hits, obscure hits, Beatles tunes, and they would take a 3-minute pop song and turn it into this 11-minute odyssey, jazz odyssey, right? Excursion. And I loved that. I loved using the idea of them using thematic material. Perhaps my favorite Yes song is not a Yes song. It's America. It's their version of Paul Simon's America. And it's by far my favorite Steve Howe guitar solo. I mean, hands down. It's just a beautifully written, well thought out piece. And so I thought, okay, let me do my humble attempt at a kind of Yes arrangement of a Talking Heads song
with a little Zappa,
with a filter of Zappa and
right.
King Crimson, because that's what I am, And so it's all right. Take the thematic material, which again, harmonically, what's happening is pretty basic, is pretty straightforward, especially in Psycho Killer. I mean, later on, Talking Heads gets more and more rhythmically complex and rhythmically interesting and harmonically interesting too. But in that song, it's a basic 4 or 5 kind of chord song. How can I extend it rhythmically? How can I mess with it and make it a little bit more like my Yes Crimson filter, as if David Byrne had come to me with this weird song and said, "Oh, let's do something with this." So that's what that tune was, and it's a fun experiment, It's just, and that's the only on that particular album, which is Vitriol, which is my third album. That's the only kind of cover. I think it's actually the only cover I've recorded that's on an album.
Yeah, with the exception of your live
except live stuff,
yeah,
because that's how much that band sort of means to me,
yeah.
and what that approach to doing a cover means to me.
Well, it grabbed me right away, and the packaging, of course, of Vitriol, and I was telling you that was a time where people were handing me a lot of different CDs to listen to, lending me CDs to listen to,
right,
and that rose to the top. I mean, there was, of course, the name recognition, especially from Jason talking about you, but then seeing the packaging and opening it up and thinking, what's this? And this man obviously put a lot of time into this, because a lot of times
it did its job, man. I mean,
it's incredible. So that was the starting off point, because that was the familiar to me.
Sure.
That was like, okay, I'm driving to the car wash. I don't have all afternoon to devote to it, but let me see. Oh, that's familiar. Let me see if that's what I think it is. And then from there, it was just, I've been a fan ever since. So we just put it that way.
Nice. Well, thanks for saying that. Well, good.
Yeah, absolutely. So I listened to your podcast, and I want to get into the podcast in a later segment. But for a fan like me, and I hope some of your fans are going to be listening to this, but I consider you a friend I don't see all the time, but every week I get a little bit of an update. I get a little bit of glimpse into your brain and into what you're out there doing in the world, which I love, and I really appreciate that you share so much of yourself every single week.
It's curious, man. It's I call it the one-way friendship, because we happen to know each other, obviously, because we're in town together and stuff. But I have thousands of one-way friends,
right?
That know way more about me than I know about them.
Absolutely,
in kind of the best way, and I feel it's kind of humbling that people are interested, and I try to maintain that interest by being honest, by being interesting, by being whatever. And it's been an unexpected sort of treat to be able to meet people that have been listening for almost a decade now. Some of which from the beginning, that have never been with me in a room before, but know me pretty intimately, know my history pretty intimately, know my likes, my dislikes, my whatever, my approach to to life on some level.